Hello. Hi, YouTube. My audience, get my dishwasher going. Why do I always do this when I got like my washing machine or my dishwasher going? I don't know. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, my audience is on TikTok. So if you're on YouTube, I will be facing that way. Just a sec. What am I doing here? Okay. Okay, so while we're waiting for people to turn up, this is the worst time of day for me to do a live because I get the fewest people on, but it's the only time so that's good news. It means that you'll probably get all your questions answered, so that's good. And anyway, while we're waiting, I'd love it if you would tell me where you're from. Hello? Oh, that's a wave. I get all my emojis all mixed up. Oh, I've done some really bad emoji fails. I did, someone had said that they'd lost a loved one. So I did laughing, crying, or crying, laughing. I thought that it was just tears. Anyway, yeah, so just ignore me sometimes. Okay, sorry, I'm just getting my card set up here live. What's the date? May 19th. The only reason I do a little note thing on here is if you give me any ideas on videos, I'll write it down here. Okay. Where are you from? What part of the world? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and I always want to know where people are from. In Australia, I lived in Australia for 20 years, and they call it a sticky beak. Someone who's really nosy. I just like to know where you're from. I'm a sticky beak. Want to know where you're from. I find it fascinating. Missouri. Hi, Missouri. You're not a regular, are you? I don't get a lot of Missouri here, and I don't recognize that name. If you're new, welcome. If you're a regular, welcome back. And I get a lot of regulars, which is great. I'm on here every day. So, okay, so where are you from? This is the slowest time that I could possibly come on because people are either having dinner or picking up kids after school. It's like between school and dinner, usually in North America. So I've never commented before, but I watch often. Excellent. Why don't you comment? Got no questions? Or yeah, I'm here to answer your questions if you have any. Hi, Michelle. So what part of the world are you from? Oh, geez, I just got a hot flash. I don't get many of those. I'm past all that now, but I just got one. I get them maybe once a week now. I used to get them about 10 an hour. North Carolina. Hi, North Carolina. Michelle, you've been here before, haven't you? Anyway, yeah, if you're a woman and you're not in menopause yet, I sailed right through it. No, the only thing that I struggled with, just so you know, it doesn't always have to be difficult. I had hot flashes, but I'm not a big sweater. So if I didn't wake up drenched, I woke up many times throughout the night with a hot flash because you get an adrenaline rush before you get a hot flash. That's what wakes you up. And but yeah, I kind of sailed right through it. I put on 40 pounds though during menopause, and then after menopause, I lost it. But yeah, menopause doesn't have to be bad. I figured that an easy menopause was what I deserved after all those horrendous years of horrible periods. So, okay, so we live southwest. Southwest where? What is southwest? That's not a state, is it? So, I don't know. Where's SW? Where is that? Okay, I'm just asking people where they're from. This is a very slow time to come on, which is good. It's the only time I had today. Also, it means that you'll probably get all your questions answered. The reason why I don't answer a lot of questions is sometimes it gets too busy. Also, I try and mix up the ages, and there's a lot, mostly toddler questions on here, on the TikTok lives. But they're not necessarily my most popular videos, so I can't figure that one out. Anyway, okay, so I think we've got enough people to get going. My website is bratbusters.com. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, bratbusters.com, you can hire me. I live in California. I was trying to type, but my daughter was climbing on me. I get that a lot, by the way, with parents. I get a lot of toddlers climbing all over them. Hi, Georgia. Anyway, if you go on my website, bratbusters.com, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. The behavior board is different from any other. Well, it was for many years. Evidently, people out there are now copying it, and that's fine. Parents are on it too. So you have to be accountable. If you're not accountable, your kids are watching you, they're not going to be accountable. So, okay. And I teach what I call calm leadership parenting. I just made that up. Uh, you can be as crazy as you want when everything's going great, but when you're disciplining, then you want to be as calm as possible. Discipline's like a business transaction. There's no emotions, very few words. It's very calm. Just get it over and done with and say, this is what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. That's what the behavior board helps you to learn how to do that. Been a roller coaster their entire life. I have tons of questions. I just never know where to start. I have 14-year-old twin boys, and it's been a roller coaster their entire life. Roller coaster. With their behavior or your lifestyle, like what's going on? Is their behavior just something, a lack of leadership? Or is it lifestyle? You've just got a crazy lifestyle going on a roller coaster. 14-year-old boys. Teenagers are my favorite age. I started my business specializing in troubled teens, and they're my favorite age because I actually have to stop and think. Not every time, but because I've been doing this for so long now. Usually with younger kids, it's I just know what to do every time, like know what I want to recommend every time when I'm coaching. But with teenagers, I have to stop and think, like what's going on here? They're complex and they're way smarter than us because they're at their peak of brain cells. Like me, I'm 62. Half of my brain's gone by now, I'm sure. I don't know what age that starts. It's quite young that you start losing brain cells. It's like 20 or something like that your brain cells start dying. Might even be younger. But yeah, I can feel it. I'm just not as quick as I was. I used to be really quick. I'm not now. This is off topic, but it's a funny story. I just feel like telling it again because I think it's hilarious. Anyway, I was a pretty good student back in the day. Anyways, I was in high school, and the local university had come to do a study on us. And evidently, they picked out the kids who were doing well. Not like I was in the top of the high school, but I was doing pretty well. I was on honor roll now. And they just did a study on us, and they just asked all, and we had like just hours of questions, like a test, basically. So an exam thing, not an exam, a test. Anyway, so then we finished, and it was a 3-hour test that we had to write. They wanted us to sit there and just write out stuff. Anyway, I finished it in like 20 minutes because I either know something or I don't. I've always been like that. I just know it or I don't. So I'm very quick, like with stuff like that. Anyway, so I wrote it all out. And then they did all their assessments, and I don't know if it was the same day or maybe later. And they came back and they said to me, you've got one of the quickest processing brains we've ever seen. Now hear me out. I'm not bragging, believe me. And I said, wow, I didn't know I was that smart. And they said, we didn't say you're smart, you're just fast. So my joke with this is always that I'm fast, but I'm stupid. So I thought that was a compliment. Evidently not. Yeah, we didn't say you were smart. Okay. Household doesn't. What are you getting at there? Let me go back. Okay. I co-parent with their father. Okay, so let me go back. Roller coaster. Okay. I co-parent with their father, and it's 2 different styles. I let them have voices. And the other, here's the thing. When you're a calm leader, they're just drawn to you. You're going to be the leader. It's just the way it is. It doesn't matter what the other household is doing. It just doesn't. Because when they have a calm leader, if you're a calm leader, and you're very much a leader, you're not telling them what to do. You listen to understand. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. You listen to understand. As soon as they told you something, then you shut up. Do you know how hard that was for me? I'm a talker. So you listen to understand. You go, yeah, I get that. And then you just stop talking. And then if they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. What that does is as teenagers, it's sort of an easy way. It's just one of the TikTok things I can tell you. With teenagers, it's really complicated. It's a lot going on. But anyway, it's really important to become a really good listener. You listen to understand. You do not listen to lecture, to gather information to lecture with. Anyway, if they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. Here's what that does for you. You become a safe place to land. You start to become the leader. They're going to start to tell you everything. And that when you're that person that they trust, you're a safe place to land, they are more drawn to you. They're your leader. You just start to become a leader. It's just the way it is. You're going to be a safe place to land. So, but yeah, the other household, don't worry about what the other one does. I do this every single day. I get a client that there's like, differing households. So it's extremely common. It's a really common problem. And I always say, don't worry about don't worry about school does with your kids, grandparents, your ex. Don't worry about that. You just worry about what you're doing. When you're a good leader, they will naturally be drawn to you. They're drawn to the leader, not the pleaser, not the authority, but the leader. They're very drawn to that person. So just strengthen your leadership skills, okay? Teenagers, I don't talk about a lot on here, and I'll tell you why. It's really, I can't. Because I need to know, whenever I'm talking to parents, if you want to hire me, that's more of a coaching thing. The reason is that you've got such history by the time they're teenagers. I need to know what's going on, for one thing. What's their social life like? Are they sexually active? Do they do drugs? Do they do alcohol? Do you have curfews? What style parent are you? Are you changing in your parenting style with teenagers? Because they do change. What's your history with your child? What were they like when they were toddlers? How did you deal with that? Then how did you deal with when they were 8, when they were 10? You know what I mean? Like, I need to know a lot of things before I can give you great, like really good advice, really sound advice. But yeah. Two most important skills with parenting teenagers. Listening is number one by far. The second one is negotiating. You say, look, this is what I want from you. I don't like that you do that. This is what I want you to stop doing that. What do you want from me? Let's start the negotiations. They might say, get off my back and leave me alone. Say, well, that's not going to happen. I'm your parent. So let's negotiate this. So that's how you sort of start out. With young children, you discipline to get respect. With teenagers, you got to get respect before you start disciplining. It's just the other way around. Because you don't want to, I always say that you want to be their leader. You do and you don't. Like when they're teenagers, you want them more to take over that leadership role. You want them to be more their own leaders. You want them to be making good choices, but they'll tell you the choices they're making. They'll run it by you. Like when my kids would come to me with something, I'd say, yeah, there you go. Yeah. And then they'd say, well, what do you think I should do? And I always say, I don't know. Let's figure it out. So I didn't ever want to tell them what to do. I wanted them to figure it out, but we could discuss it. So get really good at listening. What is your name? My name is Lisa. I don't know if I have, I do have my name somewhere, I'm sure, but I'm Bratbusters. That's supposed to be funny. That was sort of a name that, I'm going to tell you the story about how I named my company. It was quite funny. I used to mentor troubled teens, and they said, you're always busting brats. You got to teach what you do, Lisa, like, because we got along really well. And they said, you got to teach this stuff because you're always busting brats. It was just kind of a joke. And then I thought, what a great, and then years later, I started this company. And I thought, what am I going to call it? And I always remembered they call it, I was always busting brats. So I thought, oh, Bratbuster, that's funny, because I don't want to work with anyone who doesn't have a sense of humor. Like, I've never called a kid a brat. Like, it's just funny. Anyway, so I was on this round table. It was sort of a business. All of us, we wanted to start a business. So the government provides you with this training. I think it was a few weeks or something. It was a really intensive training course on how to start a business. So we came down near the end, and then we had this round table. There was like 20 of us. We were all saying company names we each had like 2 or 3 names that we were thinking about calling our company. And we were just seeing what other people thought of it. There was this one woman in there, I couldn't stand her. She was so prissy and holier than thou and just, well, I don't like that. She was just a know-it-all, one of those. So we were all kind of rolling our eyes at her. Anyway, I said, well, the one name I really like is Bratbusters. And she goes, oh, I would never work with anyone called Bratbusters. And I said, Bratbusters it is. If she hated it, it was the perfect name. So she doesn't know this, but she actually helped me name my company. She won't be watching this. For sure, she hated me. By the way, if you hate someone, it's usually mutual. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It's just that you don't connect in any way, shape, or form. But anyway, that's why I named my company Bratbusters. Okay. Thank you. I need to be a better listener for sure. Yeah, that's here's what happens is when you get really good at this, but listen and then shut up. I always tell this to my clients. I just says it like it is. Listen and then go like this. Yeah, that would be tough. Yeah. And then just stop talking. Stop talking. If they want your advice, they already know what it is, by the way. If they want your advice, if they want you to verbalize your advice, they will ask. The less you lecture, the more they talk. None of us want to lecture. You think about when you unload a problem on a friend. Do you really want them to say, okay, you know what you should do? Here's what you should be doing. Nobody wants that. You want an arm around you. That's awful. I know. You just want them to empathize with you. You just want them to understand, right? Same thing. Like I never told my little kids what to do. They'd come to me with a problem and I said the same thing my mother used to say. Well, I don't know. You can figure it out. And then we'd talk about it. I always thought I was solving all my own problems. I was too dumb to realize. Well, remember I said earlier, I'm dumb but fast. I was too dumb to realize. My mom was feeding me all the solutions, but I never thought she was. I didn't get it. She'd say, yeah, I remember what I would remember when I was your age, I did this. She was always made me feel like I was empowered. She always empowered me. I had a lot of confidence. My mother, I give her credit for that. She empowered me to make my own decisions, and she just always was guiding me, but not in an obvious way. Never told me what to do. And I didn't tell my kids what to do either. So yeah, listening skills are powerful, very powerful. I remember years ago I heard, and this is it's kind of a funny story, but it's got a real punch. This guy, I know who it was. Who's that guy who does Wayne Dyer? He writes like books, Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Okay, he was telling this story. I'm almost positive this was him. He was on a plane and he says he was sitting beside this guy, and this guy recognized him. No, he didn't recognize him. He didn't know who he was. He said, so this guy just started talking, and he realized that Wayne Dyer was a wonderful listener. This guy talked for hours, the whole flight, and he never asked Wayne Dyer anything about himself. Wayne Dyer never talked hardly one word, and this guy just talked at him for hours. This is the funny part. When they got off the plane, this other guy said, that was the best conversation I've ever had. How about you? This guy was clueless because I guess no one had ever really listened to him effectively before. But he loved Wayne Dyer. He just thought he was the best person in the world because they had had this great conversation. But think about that. He just talked at him. So that's what your kids, if you become a really good listener, they just think, wow, I just love that person. They love the person that will listen to them effectively without the advice. Why is that my daughter, who is 17 years old, I love teenagers, they're my favorite age, why does she never ask questions about anything to tell me where she is going? I don't know what you mean. I'm going to go back. It just flipped forward. Okay. Because I was yabbering too much. Now it just flipped. Oh, tell me where she is going. Okay. Why is it that my daughter, who's 17 old, why does she never ask questions about anything to tell where she's going? I don't understand that. I'm just going to make something up. Is it that she never wants to tell you where she's going? Is that what it is? Or actually, no, I don't know what you mean. So maybe you could reword that. So you have to write it all over again, but reword it because I can't go back. Okay. Well, your grandmother, I don't give grandmothering advice. I only give parenting advice. The reason is I don't want you telling your daughter how to parent. Like I won't do that with my kids either. So like I only give parenting advice. What if I told you something that she didn't like? You're just going to get on her nerves. So you see what I'm saying? If she comes to me and she wants to know, I've got lots of videos on tantrums. If you just look up Bratbusters tantrums, I've got a whole playlist on toddlers at the top of my TikTok there. If you're watching this on YouTube, TikTok is where my audience is. That's why I'm always looking that way. I think I've got 1,500 followers on YouTube, which I don't really do videos. I just download my lives there. I used to do videos. I was never great at it. But yeah, I've got like 1,500 people on there, and I've got like 500,000 on here. So obviously, this is where my audience is. I only went on TikTok a year ago. My daughter said, got to go on TikTok, Mom. It's for you. And I said, no one's going to look at an old lady sitting here talking with no editing skills. I don't dance. And but yeah, people want to know about parenting. There's a lot of questions out there, right? Okay, makes it hard to ignore. Oh yeah, you're the grandmother. If your daughter wants my advice, I'll tell her. But yeah, you can just point her in the direction of my videos if you want. When they're climbing, it's hard to ignore. Are you kidding me? I just peel them off me. I don't. Yeah, you can ignore. They can still be grabbing onto you, but you can ignore. I remember once my son had tantrum. It wasn't him. It was another kid. Pulled my pants off. Like they were climbing on me, pulled my pants right down. So it wasn't in public, thank God. I was probably just babysitting or something. I remember that decades ago. But yeah, I would not look at that child, but they were just trying to climb on top. You can still ignore, but you just physically restrain or, keep them off you. Yeah, you can still ignore. How to handle a toddler under 5. Well, a 3 and a 4-year-old is a preschooler. So I don't know what you mean. 4-year-old, let's say, with big emotions. Generally, children with big emotions that aren't controlled very well don't have a leader parent. Generally, I'm generalizing. Children who have a really strong, calm leader feel safer. They tend to be more emotionally regulated. They rarely have tantrums, outbursts. They're not cheeky or anything. They just feel safe emotionally. So work on your leadership skills. I always say that children's behavior is 100% a direct result of their parenting, not their basic personality or their basic nature, but their behavior. So emotional outbursts and highly emotional, the highly sensitive child, usually it's based in fear. And children who have a strong leader aren't fearful. They're pretty secure. They just feel safe all the time. It's just the way it is. Children need, crave, and want leadership. It's just a natural instinct to look for a leader. No 5-year-old or 4-year-old wants to be out in the world without a leader. It's just, they just don't. They desperately crave leadership. So you got to work on that. That's all I teach. I teach leadership. My website, if you go on Bratbusters.com, my behavior board is free, and it teaches you how to give respect to get it. That I teach leadership, not the authority, not the pleaser, but the leader. I just got a #1 gifter badge. Thank you. I have no idea what any of that stuff means, but I think it's nice. That's a good thing, right? I thanked someone once, and they'd evidently given me the finger or something, and I didn't know what it was. So I'm always worried about thanking people, because I think, am I thanking something rude? Because someone actually said something else, and it was an acronym. It was some letters stuck together, and it was extremely rude, and I thought it meant something completely different. Remember, I'm in my 60s, okay? I thought it meant something completely different. Everyone was trying to tell me, don't keep talking about that because it's really vile. I thought that was great. I love stuff like that. Okay. My daughter didn't want to do anything for me for Mother's Day. Why is that? I'm going to look back. Christine. Oh, that's the 17-year-old. Oh, she just doesn't respect you. You got to work on your leadership skills, but it's more bonding. With a 17-year-old, it's more about bonding with them rather than leading them, because they're not looking for leadership as much at that age. But once you bond with them, then they see you more as a leader. So that's why teenagers are very different. You bond, you get respect first before you can do any disciplining or any, exercising, any of that sort of parenting stuff. You got to bond with them. So you got to bond with her. I'm going to tell you a story. Which one? Teenage story. I think the stories tell it best, especially with teenagers. Let me think. Got so many of them. Okay. Oh, I like this one. Okay, this is one of my favorites. I was working with this parent, and her son was, I think, 16, and they bought him a new car. And because he drove around, he did a lot of sports, and the parents were tired of driving him everywhere. So it was really great. And plus, they had a lot of money. So they just bought him a new car. He was 16, but he didn't have his driver's license yet. So every single night, the mother went out after the dad was at work all the time, and the mom did a driving lesson with him every single night. They just about killed each other. They had not got along in years, the mom and the son. Now, he was 16, and they had not really talked or got along. It was just fight. They hated each other, basically. They loved each other, but they hated each other. So anyway, I said to her, I'll tell you what, we're going to work on that behavior board. His rule was dirty clothes go in the hamper, and that was it. Like, it's not about him, it's about you. So I said to her, your rule is no yelling. I think that's what it was. Can't remember. Anyway, no yelling. So I always say to the parents, you make sure if you're on that behavior board, you break a rule. You want to show the kids how this is done. So sure enough, I said, don't force a yell. Don't say, oh, it's time to yell. But the next time she felt a yell coming on, I said, let it fly. So sure enough, she yelled. Her consequence was during the next driving lesson, she was not allowed to speak unless it was a life and death situation. And that was what they used to fight most about. The whole time they were in the car, they would fight because she would nag him, and she just would nag him about everything he was doing wrong in the car. Anyway, so this one night she wasn't allowed to speak, and she thought, I didn't come up with this, she did. She thought, there's no way I can shut up the whole time we're driving, And so what she did, she put painter's tape, or I think it was painter's tape across her mouth, like up and down, as a reminder to herself not to talk. She opens up the car door, she goes to get in the car, sees herself in the side mirror, and starts to laugh. And her son hadn't seen her yet because they never look at each other, they hate each other, right? So she's getting in the car, she starts to giggle. And he looks over, sees the tape, he starts laughing, and then it goes like this, the tape, because she's laughing, and it starts flipping like this. They laughed that whole driving lesson, and it was the start of a beautiful relationship. That's what started it, was that the mom just had to shut up for one driving lesson. So that was it. You said potentially dangerous situations. You talking about the driving? It was, she can say if it's dangerous. Yeah, look out for that semi-trailer. But it was the constant nagging, constant. Evidently, she nagged all the time. He liked to have 2 feet on the pedals. She said 1 foot. It was just constant, right? So anyway, that was a really cute story on, it's not about telling the kid what's wrong with them. It's about bonding with them. So, and showing respect. She was showing respect for him. It drove him nuts that she nagged him during the whole lessons. So now all of a sudden she wasn't allowed to nag him. Anyway, then we worked a lot more and then we started correcting stuff that he was doing. But you gotta invest in that bonding with your teenager before you can even think about disciplining them. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. Beautiful story about that mom. Yeah, I wish I'd thought of that tape. I'd like to take credit for it, but I can't. What a good one, eh? I think that it still would have turned out good. And she didn't want to do it. She did not want to do it. She goes, but what if he does this? And I said, are all those things dangerous or just annoying to you? And I said, you've got yourself in such a state at this point. That's the basis of your relationship is you're nagging and he's getting annoyed at it. It was like I said, it's just your go-to. Think about it. Do you really need to nag him about everything? Like he'd adjust his seatbelt and he'd just tug at it or something. And she'd go, don't touch your seatbelt. Like it was just everything. But it was only because they were at this. There was a lot of pain involved in that relationship. That's why she nagged him. It was just awful. But then after that, yeah, she was crying when she was telling me about that. So cute. I've had a lot of other parents and I've used that same one with. I don't mention the tape because that could potentially be medically dangerous, but I tell the story. So it's up to them. Someone was asking me a question about an only child. It's just I've ignored it a couple times, so I want to go back and find it. Just joined your live. Do you offer help for parenting teens? That's my specialty is teenagers. So yes, if you want to hire me, go on my website, bratbusters.com. What does cheeky mean? Saying I hate you, you're awful, you're stupid. I want to go back and find that one because you've asked an only child. Well, I know what it was. What's a good consequence for a 3-year-old that's an only child? I don't know what that has to do with it really, but a consequence for an only child would just be chores. It's usually chores. If they do something bad, then they have to do a chore. Parents always say to me, but they love helping out. It doesn't have to be painful for them. It's just doing a good deed, okay? But you're going to be fussy about it. You're going to say you got to pick up 10 toys in 10 minutes. It's not just help me pick up toys and they just do one maybe. It's a very specific way of laying it all out. Anyway, but yeah, it doesn't have to be agony for them. Sometimes it does when they get older. Yes, we have to look for a pain point. We have to make it hurt, like something they really don't like. But no, when they're 3 years old, it's just doing a good deed is the consequence, even if they enjoy doing it. So yeah, it's usually a chore. Lots of 3-year-old questions. Yeah, and it goes in. I've actually had more teenage questions here than I usually get. Parents of teenagers usually just hire me because they know I'm not going to answer a lot of teenage questions here because if it's anything that's serious, I can't discuss it on here. And a lot of the teenage stuff is kind of serious. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff I just can't talk about on here, as you can imagine. Advice on 2-year-old first-time parents. Best advice I can give you, I was just talking about it this morning. I said, don't try and figure them out. They're just crazy. Just child-proof your house so you don't have to say no. They're just crazy. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. They're just learning. If there's a specific behavior that you want to fix that they're doing, might take a week. And this is how you do it. Every time they do that behavior, you say no, and then you take something away. Or like this consistent corrective actions, not words. One word, no. That's it. They learn through repetition. These mini therapy sessions, God, I hate those things. They're my challenge. These mini therapies, discussing all these big feelings and big emotions with toddlers, what a bunch of garbage. It's just garbage. And it's getting in the way. You're not a leader when you do that. It's just garbage. They're not about words. They're about actions. Toddlers are not about words. In those mini therapy sessions, it's just focused on the negative. It's just so serious and negative. That's not their world. They have no interest in that whatsoever. They don't react well to it. If they do, you just got an easy kid, okay? That will backfire, by the way. You won't see older parents talking about that. Parents with older kids. That's just, new parents tend to do that. It just looks so nice to be able to have these mini therapy sessions with your toddler, but it's complete garbage. Don't do it. Well, you can do it, but it's not going to help you with anything. If anyone I would love to drive that point home with the swing story. I haven't told it in a couple of days. I usually tell it in every live, the swing story. It just explains why you don't do the mini therapy sessions. It also explains why you ignore tantrums. If anyone's interested, just say swing story. Otherwise, I'll just keep going here. Bratbusters, thank you. Yeah, it's one word actually, Bratbusters. I know there's people, fakes out there trying to pull customers from me, and they've stolen some money from potential customers, which is really upsetting to me. But yeah, if you're ever looking at my website, it's bratbusters.com, one word. And also you can just see it in the title here. You can click on it. Oops, sorry. Swing story. Yeah, I got one. Okay, I will tell the swing story. There's two stories I tell on a regular basis because they're just full of it. They explain all this better than I can, like just by telling you theory. The swing story, it's a true story. My son was 2 and I was taking him to the park and it was empty, but me and another mom with her 2-year-old boy. 2 moms, 2 2-year-old boys, 2 swings. So we're like, hi, how are you? You know how you do that. Hi, how are you? You're new in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we're putting our little boys in the swing and we're chatting. Both of the boys at the exact same time start to the other swing. They wanted the other swing. Well, we're like, big deal. Let's just switch them over. Who cares, right? So we go to switch them over. They both do a meltdown, tantrum right away. And there was also 2 benches there. So we both take our little boys over to separate benches. Here was me. I put my son on the bench and I don't say anything. I just put him on the bench and then I proceed to ignore him. He went to run for the swing. Though I put my arm out. He knew me well enough. There's no way he's going to get past that arm. So he already knew me. So anyway, I put my arm out and I just look at the birds and the trees. I'm like, there's no way I would look at him or talk to him. No way. But I'm preventing him, physically restraining him. I just put my arm out. I'm not holding him. It's okay if you hold them down, by the way. You can hold them back. So I live downtown. But anyway. So yeah, you don't want them to run to that swing is my only point. So I'm just holding him like this. About 2 minutes later, he had bigger tantrums. This one wasn't huge, but it was a tantrum. About 2 minutes later, he stops. And this was me. I said, do you want to go back on the swing now? And off we went and he's swinging. Okay, so it was like 2 minutes and he's back on the swing having a great time. I didn't talk about the tantrum. I didn't look at him while he was having it. I did not have the mini therapy session after he was finished with it. That's garbage. It's absolute crap. It's all negative, negative, negative. I want to ignore the crazy, ignore the negative, but deal with it. The punishment was he was off that swing and I'm ignoring him. That is the punishment. That is the lesson. That's what they learn from. It's all about actions. And he's watching me. I'm not looking at him. I'm looking at the trees. I'm as calm as anything. Then as soon as he's calm, I reward it. As soon as he's calm, want to go back on the swing? See, ignore the crazy, reward the calm. You put your energy into what you want, not what you don't. Okay, here's the other mom. Let's go over to her bench. She's sitting there the whole time, her kid's screaming. It's escalating. And I'm watching her thinking, oh my God, she's doing it to him. She's talking. Now, all you had to do is if you just said please, and she's talking the whole time. She's like begging him. He's escalating. About 20 minutes later, the tantrum stops. My son's swinging. He's fallen asleep in the swing like he's been having a great time. So then 20 minutes later, his tantrum stops. The mom's sweating. He's sweating. Then she keeps him there to discuss it. So 10 minutes, then she's discussed the mini therapy session. She's discussing what just happened. Now, if you just listen to mommy and he's like, like it was just a train wreck. And then finally, I guess she got back on the swing and then but it's all over. They're both a mess. And then we go home happy as anything. What's the difference there? What is the difference? I ignore the crazy and I reward the calm. She rewards the crazy. Attention is reward. She rewards the crazy, rewards the crazy, rewards the crazy, rewards the crazy. Then when it's over, then she's punishing the calm by talking about all what he just did. You see what she just did there? Negative, 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 negative. It was off. It was torture to watch, but I never tell anyone what to do. The only reason I'm telling you what to do, you're soliciting my advice on here, but I've never once ever offered parenting advice to anybody. Ever. I'll never do that with my kids and their kids either. None of my business. They ask, they already know what I did. They say they're going to try and parent the way I did. Well, it's up to them. None of my business. Anyway, does that explain why you ignore a tantrum? Ignore the crazy, reward the calm. She rewarded the crazy and then punished the calm. This kid, what was he learning? Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. My kid knew the quicker he calmed down, the sooner he'd get back on that swing. He knew that. Yeah, don't try and reason with a toddler. It makes no sense. You can't make sense out of nonsense. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and tumbleweed floating around in there. How are you going to bond with teenager one, no respect? Um, I don't know what you mean by that. You bond with them. Oh, I'll give you an example. You're not going to like this. That's why I don't usually talk about teen stuff. My first session with parents of teenagers is usually pretty brutal. They usually hate me. I say, okay, so I assess this. I don't like to waste time hearing about their problems. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've been doing this forever. So I just say, tell me a few things. And then I go, I got it. Okay. Now I ask a few questions. Then I go, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you to apologize for being a bad parent. They go, what? And we've been great parents. I say, yeah, I don't care what you've been like. I'm not saying you were bad parents. I said, I want you to apologize for being a bad parent and say, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to become a better parent for you. It's one of the first things I get parents of teenagers to do if they are at war with them. It breaks down defenses. And then I say, I pretty much know what your teenager's going to react to that. They're all different, but I can figure out from what they've already told me, I can figure it out. So what you do is you just clean the slate. You take all the blame for anything that's going on. You're dropping their defenses. You're taking ownership of all the family. A leader would do that. A leader takes responsibility for the family. Say, look, I was a bad parent. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm learning. I'm going to be a better parent now. And I always tell my clients, money talks. And I always say, you tell them you paid a fortune to this parenting coach to be a better parent. It just shows that it's all about you. And you're not pointing at them. That's the problem. You don't want to point at them. How do I fix my kid? I don't know. I don't do that. I set you up as a leader, and then they respect you. And then everything falls into place. Is it that easy? No. Do parents fight me on that one, apologizing? And usually the dads. Usually the more powerful the father is, like if he's very important, politicians or whatever, they don't want to do that. But I don't give up. So, and when they don't even always do it the first week, sometimes by the second week they start to get it. But it's hard work. Getting respect from a teenager is hard work because they remember they've had 16 years of you not being like that, of you not being a leader. They don't trust you right away. You got to prove that. There's a whole bunch of things involved. But yeah, you can always get respect. It's never too late. I started my business specializing in teenagers, troubled teens. I worked with parents who had troubled teenagers. And when I say troubled, I mean crisis work, big stuff. So it's all the same though. You give respect to get it. You just give it differently with teenagers than you do with a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old. Okay. And your power is in making your kids feel good about themselves. If they feel good about themselves when they're with you, do you think they want to be with you? Do you think they want to please you? Do you think they respect you? Yes. Right? If they feel good about themselves and proud of, not for being good, but just they have pride in themselves. They're making good choices. You don't want obedient little soldiers. That's ridiculous. I would never want that. I want kids who know who they are. They're confident and they make good choices. That was my goal. I didn't want obedient little soldiers. That's ridiculous. The authority parent does. That backfires in the teen years. That builds resentment. That's why I sailed through the teen years, because I didn't build resentment. What are consequences for telling a big lie? 9-year-old. I don't know what's going on. Is that not potentially, I could put no lying on the behavior board. And every time you catch them in a lie, you say, here's the consequence for that. But are they lying because they need to? Are you meeting their needs and managing their wants? Lying is their wants. They want something, so they lie. But are you meeting their needs? I would ask that for a 9-year-old. That's a tween. 9 to 12 is a tween or a preteen. So are you meeting their needs? Are they lying for a reason? Are they lying because your punishment is too harsh? Or are they lying because you're too stern, you're too strict? So they lie to get what they need? Just simple things? I don't know. So I can't, but yeah, if everything's not that bad and it's just that they tell the odd little lie, just put no lying on the behavior board and then have a consequence when they lie. And you'll see the behavior board explains it. You don't just slap something up on a board and say no lying. It's a whole thing. You got to understand how to use that behavior board. If you want my help, then you can hire me for that. Coaching it's very different. It's very personal. It's very, Yeah. The behavior board, I use it with almost all my clients. And the behavior board, the first 30 minutes of a session is doing the behavior board. That's the easy part. The second half of the session is telling you how to make it work. That's the hard part because I have to watch your body language and I can tell what's going to be challenging for you and what you might find easier. I often, when I'm coaching too, I'll get two parents often, not always, sometimes just one. And this is often what happens. They're usually both excited because they paid money for this, right? So they're usually both into it. Not always. Sometimes I'll get one parent like this and the other one like this. You can guess which one I have to work on. But I don't even, sometimes I will focus on this one, but other times I'll focus on the one leaning in because I know once they start to become a leader and the kids want to please that one, the other one wants in on that. So it just depends on the dynamics of the marriage usually. But yeah, it's funny. Do you think it's important to coach both parents? To be honest, it's about half and half. And so no, no. It's not necessary. Once that behavior board's up, the other parent's on it too, and they're watching the parent who did it. So, but if it's really important stuff going on, like teenage crisis work, I like both parents in on it because my methods they're kind of hard to explain on here, but I really need to see the reaction of the parents to what I'm saying. I need that. If it's crisis work, I want both parents there because I'm watching them. What if you repeat yourself too much? I don't repeat myself. A good example of this is, okay, dinner's ready, turn off the TV. I would never say, I said dinner's ready, turn off the TV. Just wouldn't do it. Never. I would go in there, turn off the TV and say, I said it was dinner time. You didn't turn off the TV. It's not that specific one, but something like this. And I'd say, I'll tell you what, you can clean up the kitchen tonight afterwards. My kids wouldn't have said a word to that. They would have gone, darn it. But I wouldn't ask them something unreasonable. If it's at the last 2 minutes of a favorite movie and they just want to see it, I wouldn't say, turn off the movie. You know, I'm very sensitive to the fact that I don't want to ruin their movie either. You see what I'm saying? I might say something like, let's say there's 10 minutes left in the movie. I might say something like, okay, we're going to have dinner now, and then you can watch the movie right after dinner, okay? So you want to be nice about it too, but I don't repeat myself. I ask them to do something, and if it's a fair request and they don't do it, then I make sure it happens. Like I go and turn off the TV, and then I say, there's going to be a consequence for ignoring me. You know that. So we'll discuss it later. That's about all I'd do. In that moment, then later on, I'd say, okay. I give too many chances for sure. I still get this with clients. I've got to figure out a way. I got to come up with a story, that good story, like the swing story and the pool story. They're great stories. I got to come up with a story with parents who don't listen, don't do what I ask them to do. Like they just can't stop themselves. I wish I could come up with a story that's just covers it all perfectly. I don't have a perfect story with that. You know, I know I should do that, but I don't. I don't have a great story for that. I know I should have, and I know I messed up, and I knew as soon as I did it, I knew I was going to have to tell Lisa that I did what I wasn't supposed to do. But I haven't got a great story for that. I've got lots of great stories, but not one specifically that just sums that up. Like the swing story is a perfect one for why you don't do the mini therapy sessions and why you ignore tantrums. Or I'm explaining, okay, Peel, I'll go back. 9-year-old boy crying like tantrum when he has to do homework. He appears to be tired but won't rest. Or I'm explaining a math problem and he just loses it like it's torture. Yeah, you haven't figured out a system with that. I would say, well, you're going to have to do math problems. We're going to do it together. Okay, we're going to set a timer. We're going to put 5 minutes into this, okay? At the end of 5 minutes, then we're going to jump rope or do something like a reward at the end of 5 minutes. Then after we jump rope or skip or do something crazy, you know, then we're going to go back and do another 5 minutes. So you got to get a system in place and there's got to be mini rewards. It's mini wins and mini rewards. So, hey, you put 5 minutes into it. Now we get 2 minutes. You might even do a video game in between. So we're going to do 2 minutes of this video game together. Make it something that only lasts 2 minutes. There's lots of stuff out there like that. And then we're going to get back into it. So you got to get a system in place that's full of mini rewards and mini wins and mini rewards. Does that make sense? Get a system. What are mini rewards? Just a second. I'm just going to write this down. Mini wins and mini I'll do a video on that. I've got my beta group going through my course. As soon as they're finished, I'm going to put it out in the public. But anyway, they're going through it, and I said, and I wrote down, I just had a funny session with someone, and what was their win? Their win was, so I told them this, but I don't know. I might have done a video on this. I thought it was hilarious. This mom, she's very funny. And I said, what was your win this past week? And she said, my win was today is the first time in months that I didn't wish I didn't have kids. That was a win for her. I thought that was really cute. And the fail was, so I told the story to the course people, and the fail was this other mom. Her fail was that she let her 6-year-old talk her out of doing the behavior board on weekends. So there's no leadership on weekends. That's all free for all. I thought that was really cute. Got to laugh at this stuff. You're all going to make mistakes, right? We all do. None of us are perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect at this, but you get it pretty good and you'll see it start to work. And then it gets easier, gets easier and gets easier. Maintaining respect is really easy. It's a piece of cake. Getting it is hard work. It's worth it though. I was talking to a client the other day and she had a little one, like 5 or 6, I can't remember. Anyway, and she goes, this is such hard work. And I said, yeah, but you don't want to hire me in 10 years trying to get respect then. So she went, okay, let's go. It's a lot easier when they're young than it is when they're teenagers. It's never too late, but it's a lot more work with teenagers. Okay. Does that make sense about the homework? Have some little mini wins and then mini rewards. Do you think that would be a good system that you could set up? Does that make any sense to you? You don't want to punish stuff like that. He's obviously struggling. Just because they're not doing the right thing, it doesn't mean it always needs to be disciplined. It means you've got to figure out, you got to set them up for success. Like if my kids were struggling with something and they wouldn't do it or they couldn't do it, I wouldn't punish them for that. I would say, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's make it easier for you. Let's get a system in place. Let's figure this out together. So I was always trying to get them to problem solve. But I never wanted to make everything easy for them because then you're not doing them any favors. I wanted them to learn how to do the hard stuff too. So listen, if you were explaining a math problem to me, I'd look like it was torture too. So I remember I used to mentor troubled teens and I was hired as a tutor. Now I was working with like grade 9, 10-year-olds and I'd be sitting in a math or a science class. And I was mentor. I was really a behavioral tutor. But anyway, I was there sort of as a tutor. And they'd say, geez, I don't know how to do this math. And I would just go, don't look at me. Like, I couldn't believe what they were doing. I remember taking one of their math books home, trying to figure it out. And I just gave up on that. Then I just worked on the relationship. Oh, my God. So, yeah, I would look just like your son. Okay. My nearly 4-year-old is saying that he will hit me back, being aggressive, all that stuff. Yeah, you're just not a leader. Work on your leadership skills. It's not him. That is just a complete expression of your lack of leadership. He just doesn't respect you. Work on your leadership. We're never fixing kids. We're fixing parents. If he's like that with you and he's threatening you, he's just begging for leadership. He's like, please be my leader, please. All children need, crave, and want a leader. If you don't become that leader, they're going to be susceptible to bullies, peer pressure, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching out leadership somewhere else. They're going to be very vulnerable. They're not going to be as innerly strong. If they have a strong leader at home, they've always got that safe place to land. And it gives them that inner strength and confidence. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. That's all I teach. Actually, I can't go on about it because if this client's watching, I'll feel bad. But anyway, they couldn't deal with the fact that I wasn't fixing their kids. I was fixing them. They had no tolerance for dealing with that. It was all their kid. They didn't want any blame or any responsibility whatsoever. They took it very personally. And I said, you can't parent, you can't be a leader unless you're willing to take responsibility for their actions. Like when I've hired people in the past, if things aren't going well, I'm not a good enough leader. See what I'm saying? Like it's on me to figure it out. And especially with parenting, it's on you to figure it out, not on them. Don't expect them to fix themselves. You start leading and then they will start making good decisions. But yeah, some parents really struggle with that. They don't want to be blamed. That's the way they see it. But I say, no, I'm empowering you with responsibility. It is all on you. Don't you want that? Don't you want that level of power with parenting? Isn't that what you want? Like, that's what I don't understand. Don't you want to be in that power position? Because they are children and they need that. They need that. They need a leader. Um, yeah. Anyway, I can't help people who aren't willing to see that. And sometimes they'll come back to me when they get that. They say, I know I was just so upset. And I get that. I feel bad for them. It's not like I'm going, oh, you stupid. It's not like that. I feel bad for them that they just are so unwilling to empower themselves, that they just want to blame their kids because it's the easy way out. They're so broken down. They feel so awful about themselves that they just have to blame their child. 2-year-olds hitting, I have a course on that if you're interested. It's on my website, bratbusters.com. But yeah, just consistent corrective action. Every time they hit, you say no, and you take that toy away that they hit with, or just take their hand down and you say no, and then you remove them from a situation, like just walk away from them. How do we become leader parents? Just keep watching me. That's all I talk about. If you have a 3-plus-year-old child, you can use my behavior board. That teaches you how to start doing all this. Gives you the mentality of, oh, I get it. I get it. I got to give respect before I expect to get it. Just keep watching. There's 3 different, well, I don't know, there's probably millions of different parenting styles, but I say there's the authority, the pleaser. The authority is my way or the highway. I'm the parent, you do whatever I say. I know everything. I don't like that one. The other one is the pleaser. Please like me. Let's have the mini therapy sessions. What do you think about that? I want to make everything easy for you. The leader, the authority, tends to raise children who rebel in the teen years, big time. If they have that in them, they're going to rebel against the authority. The pleaser tends to raise children who are self-entitled. They're emotionally more unstable. They have outbursts more often, even as young people. So they're basically self-entitled snowflakes. And they often have mental health issues because they're just so weak. They've had someone trying to bend over backwards, pleasing them all the time, that they have no strength, no inner strength. So if I was going to err on the side of the authority or the pleaser, absolutely the authority. They build tougher people. They build stronger young adults. Definitely. The pleaser is the one I'm up against all the time now. That's my nemesis, is the pleaser parent. And I don't know what to tell you about that. It's just my nemesis. Because when parents come to me, that's what they've been doing. And they realize it didn't work. If you've got a really easy kid, anything's going to work for a while. But anyway, also never take advice from someone who hasn't finished the job. Have they finished raising their own kids? Have they raised to young adult? Have they lived with teenagers? Also, I didn't learn that much with my own kids because they were easy. I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through. But that person has to have respect, has to have experience with hundreds of other kids. Hundreds. I've seen everything. I was never once ever handed an easy child to work with. Here, Lisa, here's an easy one. Not once, ever. Ever. It was always, good luck with this one. Here's a teenager for you, Lisa. It's heavily experience-based. Heavy experience-based. So don't take advice from someone unless they have those 2 criteria. Have they finished the job, and are they heavily experience-based with kids? All sorts of challenges, everything, because that's what it takes. Anyway, but yeah, that pleaser parent, it's seemingly romantic, and because people were often raised by the authority, they don't want that. So they think, well, I'm not going to be that, so I'll go the other way. The pendulum swung the other way. I'm the leader. The leader is most like a really good sports coach. They're on your side. Kids love them. They're happy around them. Sports coach encourages them to do well or try their best. If they cheat, they get corrected. Sit on the bench for an inning. Then when they come back in, you're their cheerleader. Children usually want to please their coach. They're drawn to their coach, a really good coach, right? That's what I consider a leader parent to be. You're coaching them along in life. You're there for them. But if they step out or they cheat, hey, sit on the bench for a while, that kind of thing. I don't do timeout. I hate timeout. But you get the idea? It's like that. So people rebelled against the authority. The pendulum swung in the exact opposite direction. Now we're stuck with all this trendy leadership or pleaser parent stuff, and we're raising these self-entitled snowflakes. You didn't validate all my feelings. I'm just the bus driver lady. They're just so precious, and it's just, they're not strong. They're not all like that. I'm generalizing. I know I'm generalizing. I'm just trying to get a point across. I'm very passionate about what I do. I was coaching someone the other day, and they said, you love what you do, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. I love it. Absolutely love it. What if they persist and pursue you when applying punishment? How old? Are they 16 or what? I need to know how old because there's a different answer. So Jay Cauldron, if they persist and they're pursuing you when you're applying punishment, tell me the age and I'll tell you what to do. And that's why we love you, because I'm passionate. I work up a sweat. You know when I work up the most sweat is when I get someone for one session. Do you know how painful that is for me? Because I can't follow up. Drives me nuts. I try and throw as much at them and try and foresee what they might do. And I'm like sweating. By the end of if I only get, usually most people upgrade. They'll say during the session, I'm going to buy more sessions because they just want to take me up for a test drive, right? So those are the hardest sessions for me, is the one session people. Sometimes that's all they can afford to, and I understand that. But I don't get to follow up. I don't get to correct what's been done, what did and what didn't work. And, so that's frustrating for me. I like to see things through. Okay, so I want to know the age. If they're following you, pursuing while you apply punishment. Jake Calderon, tell me how old they are, because that's one that a lot of people would want to know the answer to. Oh, you asked me about the 1-2-3 Magic program. I don't have a clue what it is. I don't know what anyone else out there is doing. I don't know anything about it. So don't know what it is. And I mean that. I don't know what it is. I stay in my lane. I only teach through my own experience, and kids taught me everything I know. So I don't know what anyone else out there is teaching. Why would I? I was actually asked to join a panel of parenting experts. I did not, and they were all like real top experts in parenting. I didn't know one of them. They said, how can you not know? That's why they never hired me. They said, well, if you're not on that thing, I just didn't, it wouldn't have suited me. They were all arguing about different parents. I don't do that. That wouldn't have suited me. Why would I? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. I didn't know one of them. I'll ask the same question for a 15-year-old. Okay, so 8 to 11. Okay, so these are older kids. It's different if they're 2. If they're 2, you peel them off you. You don't do that with 8 and 12-year-olds. You're not going to like this one because it's hard to do. I do this in coaching a lot, and we role play it out back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So the reason why you're not going to like it is it's going to be hard to do, but just pay attention because it's really, really important. I'm going to set up a scenario. Let's say you got a 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old threw the remote control and broke the TV, or not that bad, threw the remote and threw it at someone else. And the rule is that you can't hit other people, okay? So I was 12 years old, threw the remote at his younger brother or something. So I would say, okay, let's go. I'm going to go to the behavior board. So the 12-year-old's got an attitude at this point. They're all, how they get that chin up thing, and they're looking, and you go to the behavior board and you say, okay, your rule was no throwing things, whatever, no hitting other people. So, and then they interrupt. This is what I do. So you're saying, okay, the rule was, now they're doing this. This is me. As soon as they stop talking, I go. So then what we do is that, and they get, you're not listening to me. You're not listening. As soon as they stop talking. So the consequence was, and then they start up again. It gets comical. Parents say, I couldn't do that. That's why we role play this. It gets comical. So why are you doing that? What are you acting just? No reaction, just. Then you go back because they're being very rude by interrupting you. You're going to finish that if it kills you. Okay. Then they get so mad, they storm off. This is me. They've stormed off. So then what happens is we do this and that. Okay. So you're going to be mowing the lawn. We can do that at 7 o'clock tonight. Okay. So they're gone. They've gone to their room. So you go in their room and you open up the door and you say, you're mowing the lawn at 7 o'clock tonight. And then you leave the room. They come at you. I hate you. I'm not going to do it. And say, well, let's go to the behavior board. Okay. So, and the behavior board, it's got two consequences for the kids: mow the lawn or 24-hour media blackout if they won't mow the lawn. So you say, well, let's go to the behavior board. Okay, so you said you're not going to mow the lawn. They're standing there. They start yelling again. Okay, as soon as they stop. Okay, so now it's 24-hour media blackout because you said you won't mow the lawn. That starts now. They have a fit. Okay, fine, I'll mow the lawn. F you, whatever they say. They get real mad, right? Just ignore that stuff and just say, well, you can mow the lawn, but you don't have to now because the 24-hour media blackout's already started. Remember, this is a 12-year-old. Now, They start having a fit. You notice the whole time how calm I am? It's like a business transaction. No emotions, none. The first time you do this, it's probably going to be hell. The second time it gets a lot easier because they already understand what's going on. I'm not finished yet though. Okay, so 24-hour media blackout. They go ballistic. I said I'm going to mow the lawn. You said you're not doing, this behavior board, it's crap. I hate you. And say, I'll tell you what, if you keep at me like this, I'll double it and make it 48 hours. What are you going to do? And go silent. Just wait. I hate you. I hate you. I hate, never going to, I say, fine, 48 hours, less 2 minutes because I started the 24 hours. So you got 47 hours and 58 minutes. Do you understand? And then disengage. They can follow you around. They can scream. They can cry. They can say anything. Just say, that was your choice. You see, because it's their choice. That is hard to do. That is one of the hardest things I teach parents, because they say, how on earth do you stay calm? And I said, easy for me, because I know how well it works. I know how well this works. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Now, this is a 12-year-old. I never double that 24-hour media blackout for a child under 9. I start doubling, and it's got to get bad before you're going to double it. Like, I don't like to double that. It makes you look weaker if you do it too often. I would maybe do that once. Okay? But that's only because this kid's swearing at you. This kid's really coming at you, right? That's why when they're talking, I'm like this. When they leave the room, I'm just continuing on because I'm the leader. I know what I'm doing. It's hard to do. And when we role play, parents never get it the first time. But by about the third or fourth time, when I'm being their kid and I'm yelling at them, and then they do it, about the third or fourth time they get it. Then I tell them practice together also, because it's really hard to do in the moment if you haven't already practiced this. But yeah, it's just, you see what I'm doing? The behavior board is law. So I'm just referring to that. Every time they come at me, I'm acknowledging that they're talking, but they're being rude by interrupting. So I don't have to answer them. Why aren't you? They often say, why aren't you answering me? So, and then what we're going to do is I don't, because they've interrupted. They've interrupted. A leader just keeps going. This is what younger kids do when you do that. When you're just in the behavior board, they're coming at you. This is what younger kids do. This is what parents tell me. And I always predict this. A younger kid looks from the parent to the behavior board like this. Like they're just so confused why you're not getting upset with them because they're being a total pain in the butt. It's a business transaction to you. This is a business transaction. No emotions whatsoever. So you might say, well, that was your choice. If they get really upset, not fair, you're such a whatever they say about you. And then say, that was your choice. Or you might say, well, you'll know next time, won't you? That's a bit of an accelerator, but sometimes it works. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? Like, in other words, it's happening. Even if they say, I'll mow the lawn now then. If that's what you want, fine, I'll do it. Say, well, it's too late now because you've already got 24-hour media blackout. You can mow the lawn if you want, but that's an extra at this point. You only do one or the other. You don't do both. So does that make any sense when they're coming at you? It's hard to do. But how do you feel when I'm doing that with you? Like when I'm going like that, I'm acknowledging you're talking, but do I look like I know what I'm doing? Do I look like it's going to happen? Do I look like a leader? You see? It's important. It's going to be hell. Things usually get worse before they get better. If you have to do that and you got a kid coming at you, it's going to be awful the first time. It's going to get ugly. They're going to get ugly, but you're not. Internally, you'll be a mess. But once it works, parents all say this. They go, oh my God, that one works like a charm. But they had to do a lot of practice, a lot of role playing first. Yeah. Do you get why that's so important though? See, no matter what they say or what they do, a leader doesn't get swayed by that. It would be like a police pulls you over for a ticket and you have a fit. Are they going to say, okay, fine, no ticket? They're just going to stand there calmly waiting for you to stop. And then they're going to say, and here's your ticket, man. Have a nice day. Drive carefully. You see, it's like that. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. Anyway, that's a really powerful one. If you can do that well, so powerful. These are for kids who come at you. They just won't take their punishment. It's for those kids. Does that answer your question? Think about the cop pulling you over for speeding. Think about it like that. No emotions. You're going to get the ticket no matter what. Okay, common question, but I can't help you a lot with this. As parents, how do we vent? Because it's really emotionally hard. The thing is, you're changing habits here, and it is difficult. There's no way of making it easy. That's okay. When you're going to change habits, you start small. You don't start with them all. You just start with one habit at a time. That's why we do one behavior board per week, one rule per week. You start with one habit, okay, at a time, and you build up. It gets easier and easier and easier. The thing is, it is hard. If you need to vent, you do what I used to do after I finished working with those troubled teens. They were often, what's a good word? Vile. When they didn't know me, when they were getting to know me, they would test me and anybody else in their way. They were violent and vile. And so I never let them see me sweat. You know what I used to do? I'd get in my car and I'd take my purse. I had like a fabric purse, and I'd scream into it. Swear, and I swear more now that my kids are grown. I'm terrible. Plus, it's trendy to swear. It makes me feel cool. Anyway, but I never used to swear, but I would swear into that purse or a jacket or whatever I had with me. I lived in Australia. We didn't have jackets very often. So yeah, I had to vent. I just had to scream and call them every name in the book. But I would drive away from the school before I did that, or away from the institution or wherever I was. So yeah, that's why you start small. You start with one rule at a time. I couldn't start small because I was dealing with troubled teens. I had to do it all in one go, right? And they test you like you wouldn't believe. You're never going to outsmart a teenager. Never try and do that. You get them to like themselves when they're with you, and then they bend over backwards trying to please you. It's just the way it is. I can't teach all that, but sometimes I'm hired by, child psychologists and stuff like that, and they want to know how you do that because it's a specialty. It's something I had to figure out on my own. I don't follow what anyone else teaches. I don't know what other people are teaching, but yeah, you get kids to like themselves when they're with you. It's like in life. You don't try and impress people. That's not what popularity is about. That's not what being liked is about. People don't want to be impressed. They want to feel good about themselves when they're with you. They want to have fun. Same with kids. They want to feel good about themselves when they're with you. If they do, God, that's powerful. They bend over backwards trying to please you. When I was working with these teenagers, I heard them, they were in a special lunchroom, and I heard them talk. I heard my name come up. So, of course, I eavesdropped. They couldn't see me, but it was eavesdropping because I heard my name. So I just walked slower with my ear like that. And they said, "What was your biggest fear?" And they said, "When Lisa looks down." This is their biggest fear in life, was when Lisa looks down. You know what that was? If they did something I didn't like, I would just look down and doodle for maybe 30 seconds. As soon as I could see them getting real edgy and mad, then I'd look up again and change the subject. That was my way of disciplining them. I ignored the crazy, reward the calm, right? Same kind of thing. But I couldn't discipline them. But that was my discipline with them. Because if I'd gone too far, everyone else was always telling them what they were doing wrong. I didn't. I just got real quiet for a few seconds. That was it. That's all they could take. Because they didn't want to disappoint me. Because they felt good about themselves when they were with me. They liked themselves when they were with me. That's very powerful. You do that with your kids. If they like themselves when they're not about liking you, it's about liking themselves. Don't you want to be around someone who makes you feel great about yourself? Don't you want to please that? As adults, don't we want to please that person? I feel great about myself when I'm with that person. I love that person because they make you feel so good about yourself. It's just like that with kids. It's the same thing. It's just basic psychology. Never try and impress anyone. Try and make them feel good about themselves and be fun. They want to just have fun and feel good about themselves. That's it. That's the secret to life. Okay. Any advice for twin toddlers? Anything, I'll take it. Okay. I just had a client the other day and they said their solution was alcohol. I don't recommend that. I get some really funny clients. Anyway, toddlers are crazy. Don't try and figure them out. Childproof your home as much as possible. I did that, so I never had to say no to my toddlers. I never had to worry about where they were. I completely childproofed my whole house. I had a friend who kept complaining. Oh, they just keep getting into the toilet brush. I keep catching them brushing their teeth with the toilet brush. Why on earth would a toddler have access to a bathroom? To me, that's lunacy. And they said, well, we want to teach them how not to touch stuff. I don't give a crap if my kids never learn how to touch something. I don't want them brushing their teeth with a toilet brush. Like, you know what I mean? They eventually learn, they grow out of that stuff anyway. My kids were not more precocious. If anything, they were less precocious because they weren't used to getting stuff at home, into stuff at home. So when I took them other places, they weren't used to getting into stuff. So they just didn't. Still had to watch them at other people's houses. But at my house, friends used to love coming to my house. They never had to watch their kids. The whole place was completely childproof. So that's how you make your life easier. And don't try and figure them out. Toddlers are just crazy. They don't make any sense. They run on urges. They don't run on thoughts and reasoning and sense. They don't have any sense yet. They have no common sense yet. Remember, one marble and some tumbleweed floating around there. They run on urges, impulses. You can interrupt that with repetition of consistent corrective actions, not words. But that they're still going to take ages to learn that. Okay. That explains why I don't trust being around my mom as an adult. Why? What explains that? Childproofing? Or the feeling good about yourself? I felt great about myself when I was around my parents. My kids felt great about themselves when they were with me. Intrusive thoughts personified. I don't even know if it's thoughts. It's just urges. There's no thought to putting your hands down your pants and smearing poop on the wall. I mean, that's just an urge. I don't even know what that is. Like, you know what I mean? They don't think about it really. They just do it. So that's normal for some toddlers. I've actually been hired. There's something wrong with my 1.5-year-old. He just smeared poop on the wall. I said, he sounds normal to me. They don't all do it, but that's a toddler. They're going to do crazy stuff. That parent was convinced that child was going to end up to be a serial killer or something. All they did was smear poop on the wall. They're 18 months old. They're just crazy. They're just forming. Imagine if you've only been in this world for 2 years and for one of those years you were a potato laying in a crib. Like, you have no concept or context of the world yet. Right and wrong. You're just like, what? They'll walk out in front of a train and they just don't have any context or knowledge of the world yet. They're going to do crazy stuff. Whoops. God, okay, I've been on here for 1 hour and 12 minutes. Actually, I don't have any appointments left, but I do want to get going soon. I got to go to the gym. I go to the gym every day. I'm just not into it lately. Anyway, my gym, I'm in my 60s now, and I go to I'm really into health and fitness, and I go to a muscle gym. And it's basically me and a bunch of young guys. So I can't even appreciate their bodies because they're too young. Like, they're just so young. They're like my I could be their grandmother. But anyway, I call it the daycare center. It's just me and a bunch of kids. Now, if they were like 40 or 50 and really into bodybuilding, I could be appreciating them. But these are just kids, right? So, and it's funny because someone said, "Oh, I see all those gorgeous young guys coming out of your gym." And I'm like, I don't see them that way. They're just children. Everything is so funny when it's about other parents, but not you. Laugh at it. I did something. I'm going to tell you a real dumb thing I did. This is it's a good one. It's embarrassing. This is a Lisa parenting fail. Anyway, my son was in grade 1, and I'm a sewer. I made all their clothes. So I had sewed his uniform because you can get a special pattern and fabric from they tell you where to go to get all that. So I made all his uniforms. I made like 5 of them for the whole week. And little button-up shirts. They were a lot of work. Anyway, that's part of the story. I'll get to that. And then he had never had real scissors. Like, he just had that type that would fold cloth if you tried to cut, because I was a safety nut. Sorry, I live downtown. Anyway, so he'd never had real scissors. But in the supplies thing that you get, they have to have they're like shears. You could cut a tree trunk with them, these things. But it was the scissors they said to get. So I bought I follow all the rules, right? So he'd never had real scissors before. And he was used to being able to put his old at-home scissors on fabric and it wouldn't even cut it. He went like this and cut the pocket of this uniform I'd made for him. And he freaked out. He's in grade 1 and he freaked out. No one noticed it. So I go to pick him up after school. I'd made it, right? So I know right away he's coming towards me. What happened to your uniform? But anyway, we were in the car. By the time I noticed it, we're actually in the car. So we're driving home and I said, And then I looked and I said, what happened to your uniform? And he goes, and he already had the story all planned out. He's 5 years old. He's never lied to me before, but he didn't want to face me when he cut it, didn't want to admit it. So he said, Jakey attacked me with scissors and cut me. And I said, what do you mean? Did he cut you? And he's looking around, he's looking for like injuries, and there was nothing. And anyway, I was horrified. I get home and I called the teacher instantly. I called the school and I said, I'm really upset. I said, my precious little angel was attacked by Jakey, this other little boy. And I said, with scissors, and he cut his uniform. And the teacher, her name was Storm Shaw. I've since talked to her about this. This was 35 years ago. Anyway, so I just talked to her a few years about this years ago. Anyway, because she saw, I don't know how it happened. I can't remember. Anyway, and she said, you know what? She goes, Lisa, she goes, Jakey's my nephew. And she goes, he just wouldn't do that. Like if someone had said that about my son, I would have said, no, he wouldn't do that, right? She goes, no, Jake wouldn't have done that. She goes, let me talk to them both tomorrow and I'll get to the bottom of it. So I'm like, okay. And I'm all upset, So then, the next day she calls me at lunch and she goes, okay, I found out. I interviewed them both and I found out what happened. Jake knew nothing about it. He had nothing to do with it. My son had just done it himself. And she said, and he lied to get away from it. And I said to her, I'm on my way. I was going to go get my son. He might not have survived. Anyway, so she goes, no, calm down. Just pick him up after school. By the time I went to pick him up, you should have seen his face. He was looking at me. I didn't discipline him or anything. He was so scared of me at that point. The funny thing is, he'd never been afraid of me before until that, because he thought, what's she going to do? I've never done anything like this before. I just said, don't do that again. Don't ever lie to me again. Anyway, so that was it. That's how it was handled. But yeah, I totally overreacted. I believed my son and I blamed another child. Thank God that teacher had a sense of humor. She set me straight. How embarrassing. My poor little angel. Yeah, anyway. So there you go. We all mess up. We all make mistakes. You got to have a sense of humor about it. I told that story to everyone I knew. I thought it was hilarious. I've made a lot of mistakes. We all do. We all make mistakes. Life isn't about perfection. It's about doing a pretty good job and going with it, patting yourself on the back. Parenting is not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be a little bit messy, because life isn't about being perfect. The thing is that when I messed up with my kids, I was good at apologizing. I would say that's why I was also accountable. I never used a behavior board, but that's why you're on it. You want to be accountable. So I'll give you an example of how accountable I was with my kids. My son was, this is another story. He dropped the garbage on the floor. He was trying to take the garbage out. He was 12 years old. Now, I'd never been yelled at growing up, ever. And I'd never yelled at my kids. My son's 12 years old. He was trying to take the garbage out. He picked it up by the lid. And I always said, pick it up by the bin, not the lid. Anyway, sure enough, the garbage went all over. And I yelled. He'd never been yelled at before. And I couldn't, it was very quick. Like I just said, I can't believe you did it. Like it was just really quick. And then I caught myself. I thought, wow, because I'm really fussy, like housework is really important to me. And he went pure white. His lips went white and everything. He'd never been yelled at before. And anyway, and then he just went in his room, and I went in his room and I said, I'm so sorry I yelled. I said, poor kid, you just tried to take out the garbage and I yelled at you. I'm so sorry. And I said, how about I buy you a new PlayStation game? It was $80 in Australia where we lived for a new play. And I felt so bad. I bought him a PlayStation game. So the joke after that was every time I'd go to take out the garbage, he'd go, whoa, 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 trying to get me to yell so we'd get another PlayStation game. But yeah, make amends. If you do mess up, make amends. Say, I'm really sorry about that. I shouldn't have done that. It was horrible. What can I do to make it up to you? Right? Make amends. So it's really important to make mistakes so that you can show how you can make amends. Just don't do it repeatedly. That's the problem. It's the repetition of the mistakes that causes the damage. A one-off here and there, that's no big deal. So, but yeah, make amends. Anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much for watching. My website, again, is bratbusters.com. Oh, jeez. That one's right in front of my building. Now yeah. Anyway, it's that time. It's 4 o'clock on a Friday. I guess people are crashing into everyone everywhere. Anyway, my website's bratbusters.com, and you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. That is free. It teaches you how to give respect to get it. It's completely free, so it's not going to cost you a thing. If you want to hire me, that's not free. My free stuff is the behavior board and these lives and these videos. These lives I'm on here every day, and this is all free. So we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.